how do I address the question, are we in a bubble? How can this sustain? Where is the market gonna go? Hi, this is Clint with the Kaizen Practitioner and Stitcher Properties. And today we're gonna talk about having market data, having real reasons to substantiate what's happening in the market to allow people to feel confident and clear in the decisions that they make. Look, right now we're all dealing with buyers who might feel like they want to offer a little bit lower. They might feel like they don't want to offer higher. They might feel deflated because they think even if they pay now more, it's just no way this is going to be sustainable. Our job as practitioners is to help uncover the realities, the drivers behind the market, such that people can feel confident in the decisions they're making. Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to reference a lot of talking points that were provided by a woman named Zelman from Zelman and Associates. They're one of the nation's leading housing data analyst firms or research firms, I'm going to call them. And I linked to here, as a part of this video, we're just going to provide a Google Doc that's got a lot of these talking points and resources. And I linked to a podcast with Tom Ferry and Ivy Zelman. And it's like an hour long, and they go into way more detail than I'm going to take up your time here. So by all means, go listen to it. But my goal was to take that podcast and all these other things floating out there and really boil them down into three main areas. Three main areas that you can study, learn, get good at communicating, and then weave that into your everyday client interactions. Okay? So again, I'm not going to go crazy in depth on each area. I am going to offer you a Google Doc that's got this stuff, but we're just going to touch on these things in this video, give you some scenarios that you can use them, and then from there, it's up to you on how to integrate, but I really hope that you find this summation helpful. Okay, so here we go. What are the three main reasons that we can share with clients to help substantiate that we are not in a bubble and the decision they make now will be part of a market that has strong foundations moving forward? Okay, a robust real estate market or housing market. Okay, so area number one is financing. Okay, the most obvious thing is that interest rates are at all-time lows. I mean, historical, all-time, never heard of before lows. 2.25%, 2.5%, 3%, 3.5% fixed interest rate for 30 years, all-time historical lows. That interest rate is allowing people who previously did not feel comfortable or were not willing to move up. That interest rate is allowing people to make decisions that they're going to buy something that they wouldn't have bought previously, but they're going to buy something they know they're going to enjoy for the next 20 years or more. Okay, so number one, incredibly low interest rates are building a long-term stable market. Why? Because people are going to get that rate and they're going to keep it. They're going to not move because they've got money at such an affordable interest rate that that's going to help them stay, and it's enabling them to make decisions at a higher ticket price, longer term commitments to a home because of the affordability factor of those interest rates. Okay, so financing is a huge factor. Okay, area number two is the long-term stability of the market. Okay, I'm going to talk just Northern Nevada specifically right now, but Northern Nevada is incredibly supply constrained. We're supply constrained from developable land. It sounds crazy because we're in a huge desert, but the truth of the matter is we don't have that much lot supply and inventory. Now, and there's a myriad of reasons, I won't bore you, but here's one interesting fact I'd like everyone to know. Northern Nevada is one of the most expensive markets to develop new sewer capacity in the nation. The reason is because the effluent, after it gets processed, flows downriver to a Native American reservation, and that reservation requires that we have some of the cleanest effluent in the country. So our sewage process has additional layers that other markets don't. So it becomes very, very cost prohibitive to increase the capacity of our sewer system. And in doing so, it limits the ability to develop land at a price in which we can develop homes that people can afford. Okay? So this goes way, way deep, but very simply, Northern Nevada has a supply constraint. Okay. Another thing to take into consideration is this fear of a foreclosure wave and people not being able to afford their homes because of COVID and lost payments. The unfortunate people that are in that situation, most of whom have equity, and the servicers don't want to initiate foreclosures. Okay, so they're going to work with those people to help them stay in their home, number one. Or number two, those people have equity and they can sell. And the time frame at which it takes people to get through this process with the forbearance that exists and the like, there's no way for this to be this mad rush of inventory that's going to break the supply-demand metrics of our market. So if people are in an unfortunate situation where they're at a last resort and they have to sell, most all of them are in a position where they have equity to sell. and then they can take that money off the table, move into a family, rent, whatever, but it's not a scenario where that drastically jeopardizes the underlying strength of our market. Another point on stability is that we are seeing a ton of cash transactions. So irregardless of the amount of interest or how low interest rates are, people are buying cash. So we have prices being set by people coming here. We have more bodies than we have homes. We have a new job, a new demographic coming by way of telecommuting, where maybe it would have taken 10, 15 years previously for industry to develop in an area. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about this about mobility rates. Okay, but I'm just gonna tell you now because we're in this conversation. Basically, because of COVID and telecommuting, what previously would have taken a decade or more to develop new earnings categories within a market now happened overnight. Here's what I mean. Someone who could make, let's say, random number, $150,000 working for Airbnb that previously had to live in San Francisco or some other major metro can now make that same amount of money living in Reno, and no big changes had to happen in infrastructure, demographic, development of industry in an area, government approvals, none of that. In other words, we didn't have to build a Tesla plant to get all of these new high-paying jobs in Reno. People are just able to move here. They're able to move here and experience less crowds, experience more open space, all these things, and they keep that same earnings potential. Really incredible how quickly that demographic force changed, okay? Okay, so that's on long-term stability. The last category is mobility rates. Look, historically in my real estate training, I always learned that 15% of all units in a market trade every year. Well, we learned from Ivy Zelman that 2013 through 2018, that number went down to 11%. Okay, mostly because people had great interest rates, they stayed in, they weren't moving up because they weren't confident enough to spend that extra money, whatever it is. Well, now that mobility rate is back up, and most of that mobility rate is a result of other states losing people and more people coming into Reno. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I'm just bucketing this into a way that you can communicate long-term strength of the market to your clients. And that's financing, that's underlying stability of the market, and that's increased mobility rates, and that's an in-migration of people into our area as a result of said mobility rates. Okay, so there's a ton more data in here. I don't want to take up just a massive amount of your time blabbing, but my goal in going over this and helping summarize these things into these three areas, finance, mobility rates, underlying strength of market, is to give you the thought process to be able to very easily and clearly communicate to someone who's concerned. Because any buyer is going to be concerned when they're watching the market accelerate, okay? So now, to even make this information more actionable, let's talk about the ways that you can use it, okay? So let's say that you study these buckets that we're talking about, you get really good at talking about them. Now, where are you going to deploy this conversation? Okay, here are a few areas. How about your client that just closed? Call them and say, I just want to let you know how great of a decision you made because this, and this. Financing, long-term stability, mobility rates, okay? Man, do we see the market continuing to strengthen in Northern Nevada, and I just want to get rid of your buyer's remorse, basically, and confirm that you made a great decision. Any of those things where you've got someone on a fence, you got someone who is considering but confused, or someone who just recently closed, these are great people to deploy that conversation with. So I'm hoping that you found these three categories as a great summarizer, a great way that you can start taking all these talking points and categorize them and then communicate them more clearly. I'm also hoping that you access this Google document and you look at ideas on who to share this information with and how to share it, and that you really internalize these things and it just becomes a part of your daily language when you engage with clients. So anyway, I want to wish you great success at the end of 2020 here and a great 2021. And if you have any questions, concerns, comments, shoot me a call, email me. Would love to chat about it. Thanks again for watching. This is Clint with Stitzer Properties and the Kaizen Practitioner.